It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. Now here's your host, Geno Jones.
Hey, it's showtime. What's happening, everybody? Yeah, you figured it out. Showtime. The Geno Jones Showtime. I come to you live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. in Chicago, 3:30 p.m. out in Los Angeles, where the Lakers didn't get Kyrie. The owner of the Brooklyn Nets said, any team, anywhere but L.A. Because I know you want to go to L.A., Kyrie, and play for the Lakers. So I'm going to send your ass to Dallas. This spiteful Joe Tsai is the owner of the Brooklyn Nets. Just spiteful self, spitefulness. I digress. In spite of that, I hope you had a great weekend. There were some folks who had a great weekend at the Grammys, but we got some conversation. We're going to talk about Grammy winners and snubs, and my guest is Professor Damon Fordham. Yes, he brings the fire. He brings the receipts, the wisdom, the knowledge that you need in your life. All of this talk about, so the college board and African American, they call AP courses, which are basically college level courses in high school students can take. And Governor Too Short in Florida said there's no educational value in African American history. So listen, we got a man who, listen, this is what he does. He's a historian, and he's got all the receipts and the knowledge and everything else. So we're just going to get to the bottom and explain to you what the hell is really going on. We kind of know, but I'm going to let Professor Fordham explain it to you. Put it right there, eye level, street level, where you ain't got to look up. It's going to be bam, straight no chaser, the Bacardi without the Coke, the 151 without the chaser. We're giving it to you straight. First of all, congratulations to the Grammy winners. Big shout out to Kendrick Lamar. So he won 3 Grammys last night: Best Rap Performance, Best Rap Song, for the Heart Part 5, also Best Rap Album for one of my favorites, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. He was also nominated for the overall Album of the Year. Spoiler alert, he didn't win. Speaking of winners, though, Lizzo won Record of the Year. She even beat out Beyonce and Mary J. for It's About Damn Time. And let me shout out Lizzo. If you didn't see Lizzo's live performance, you need to check it out. Lizzo, my sister, I got to give you love. I know you've taken some heat because folks, I know some of your own folks, some of your own kinfolk, folks that look just like you, not most of them, not all of them, not even most of them, but some, because you know it's always going to be somebody that's going to hate. Say, well, she don't make music for black people. She make it for white people. Come on, y'all. Stop. Just stop, okay? But I saw Lizzo perform live, and she talked about she wanted to just make some positive music to make people feel good coming out of the pandemic. And you can see that the sister she's genuine. She's authentic. There's nothing phony about her. What you see is what you get. And you see all of her, and she's proud of all you can see, and she's proud of all of her. And she's embraced herself, her full self, not just in terms of her body size, but just who she is as a person. And I love Lizzo. She's got a beautiful spirit. She had our new man with her, so I ain't mad at you, Lizzo. Tell him to go take that, kick rocks. But it was beautiful. She was in tears talking about Beyonce and how when she was 5 years old, she cut class, she skipped school, and her older sister took her to see Beyonce. So it was really beautiful to see the love, from one sister to another sister. So I'm happy for Lizzo, even though Beyonce could have got that Record of the Year for Break My Soul. But and hold on, let me just say this. Look, miss me. Don't say, well, Geno, why are you pitting one black woman against another one? No, listen. The culture won. Everybody won. Lizzo won. Beyonce won. As a matter of fact, Beyonce won 4 Grammys. Now, I think she might have got cheated between her and Mary J. Might have got cheated out at that Album of the Year, the overall Album of the Year. I'm going to get to that in a second. But shout out to Beyonce. She won 4 Grammys. She won for the best dance performance, and I believe the best dance album. Total of 4. She also got she got a Grammy for the best R&B song for Cuff It. Even though best R&B song, I might have had to give that one to Mooney Long for Hours and Hours, because that was one, from a songwriting standpoint, that was one hell of a song, and it dominated radio. It definitely dominated black and quote-unquote urban radio, and even crossed over some. So shout out to all the sisters. Shout out to Kendrick. Like I said, he did his thing. Oh, by the way, Beyonce, she broke a record last night. She now has a total of 32 Grammys. So congratulations. And let me just say this. I'm happy that the Grammys has evolved some. They still got a long way to go. But I remember back in the day, people like, some of the greatest R&B performers, period, got ignored. Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life, there's no way that shouldn't have been Album of the Year. Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, 79, no question. Not even a conversation. Should have got Album of the Year. I think I can't even remember who won the Album of the Year that year, but I think whoever won was like, yeah, well, man, it might be that Off the Wall. Heck, I would have voted for that one. So there's a history. The Grammys and the people who vote in the Grammys, basically a lot of people who are in the recording industry. There's an organization, members, National Association of Recording Artists and Sciences. Listen, the title don't matter, but it's a group of people in the industry, not just performers, songwriters, producers, other people in the industry to vote. That's a part of NARIS. And it's always been flawed. It's always been, especially the culture, black folks have been snubbed, overlooked. That's the Grammys' history. So it's nothing new. I'm just going to give you a quick example. How many Grammys? Now, Prince. All I got to say is one word, Prince. All his hits, Prince. How many Grammys do you think Prince has? Don't wait, I'll tell you. 7. Prince only had 7 Grammys? Prince? How many do you think Whitney has? The greatest, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest singing voice. I love Aretha, but Whitney is just, Aretha is Aretha, and Whitney is just, how many Grammys do you think Whitney has? All right, I'll tell you. 6. Janet, the run that Janet had in the from her first album, Control, to Rhythm Nation and Damita Joe and all those albums, the 80s and 90s, all those hits, just the Rhythm Nation album alone, how many Grammys do you think Janet Jackson has for her whole career? 5. Hell, Michael Jackson's only got 13, and he got most of those the year that Thriller came out. He probably got close to, I think that year Michael might got close to 10 Grammys just for that one album. So the point I'm trying to make is that the Grammys, they have a history of snubbing, especially black and R&B artists. They just do. So I'm happy that Beyonce came out in a time where you got more black artists and writers and performers, and then you just got other people who were not black who just, hey man, this isn't great music. We can't ignore it. So congratulations to Beyonce. Congratulations for breaking that award. But the Grammys, y'all need to go back, because there's no even give them to him, they call posthumously. I know he's moved on. But y'all need to make good, because Prince, only 7 Grammys? Really? That don't even, does that sound right? That don't even say. You're probably looking at me right now saying, damn, Prince only got 7 Grammys? That don't even sound right. Whitney only got 6? That don't sound right. Janet only got 5? Keith Sweat says something just ain't right with that. It was a great, but otherwise, it was pretty good. For a second, was I watching the Grammys or the BET Awards? Shout out to the big tribute, hip hop. 50 years old this year, 50th anniversary celebration of hip hop. Oh, it was an amazing performance. I can't even think of everybody from LL to Public Enemy. I saw my man Chuck D and Flavor Flav is in the building. Method Man, let me see. I was talking about LL, Tribe Called Quest. There's so many. I saw Jada Kiss. There's so many old school from way back when hip hop first started. They had a couple of the new artists. They had Sister Glorilla and they had Lil Baby. And some folks was like, why are they on there? Because they were trying to show the progression from when it started to where it is now. Shout out to Dr. Dre, by the way. So he got an award. As a matter of fact, there's going to be an award in the future. It's going to be named after Dr. Dre for like creative people, producers, and people like that. So shout out to Dr. Dre. Got that big award last night. Shout out to the Motown medley, Stevie Wonder, and my man Smokey Robinson, who's going to be 83 in 13 days. Man, Smokey look good for 83? Man, I don't know what's in the water. Now, some folks will say, well, you know, Smokey then had a little nip and tuck. Well, I don't know, but whoever his nip and tucker, whoever his seamstress is on his face, holler at Smokey, holler at your man. But not really. You know, his skin don't look stretched back. Smokey he's been taking care of himself. The brother looks good. Look, that's my goal. When I'm 82, I want to be rocking it just like Smokey. It was great. Oh, by the way, so if you saw the medley, it was Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson, and some young men. I can't remember the name of the group, but it was like 4 young men. And they were the sons of Wanye Morris from Boyz II Men. So shout out to the Grammys. Y'all almost got it right. Just that album of the year. Beyonce, Renaissance, or Good Morning Gorgeous. I can make an argument for Kendrick Lamar's album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. But absolutely, there's no way that Renaissance or Good Morning Gorgeous didn't win album of the year. I mean, no disrespect to Harry Styles, but he sounded like he was just pulled some stuff out of the 90s and brought it to 2022. I'm just keeping it real. So, happy heavenly birthday today, Natalie Cole. She was born on this day in 1950. She would have been 73. Also, happy heavenly birthday to Bob Marley, reggae music and cultural icon. And the man whose fathering goals, Nick Cannon is trying to inspire. But Nick, you got a ways to catch it with Bob Marley. You got 12. I can't even count how many. I don't think they can even count how many kids Bob Marley got. So Bob, okay, I'm just keeping it real. So Bob Marley would have been 78 today. He was born on this day in 1945. Bobby Brown turned 54. Yesterday on Sunday, Trayvon Martin, who was killed by, I'm not even going to dignify this person. You know who killed the brother. He would have been 28 on yesterday. Hank Aaron, Hammerin' Hank, one of the greatest baseball players, one of the greatest hitters ever, would have been 89 on yesterday. He died a couple of years ago in 2021. Oh, congratulations. South Carolina native Viola Davis, she won a Grammy for the audio version of her brand new book, Finding Me. So now she's got what they call an EGOT. She's won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony Awards. Only 18 people in the history of the planet that have won all 4 of those. So congratulations to Viola Davis. And it's time for me to bring on my guests. There's been a lot of talk about, states that don't want to teach African-American culture and history. And there was the College Board. So my guest is going to explain who and what the College Board is. There's a new program or curriculum for African-American studies and culture. But there's talk about it was changed because Governor Too Short, little wannabe sawed-off mini-me Trump, DeSantis, Governor Death Wish in Florida, said that this African American curriculum has no educational value, but just German history and culture. So you can teach in Florida. You can teach German history and culture, and Italian history and culture, and Irish, and European, and Spanish, and Japanese, but not African American history and culture. I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, you've seen him on the show before. Dynamic force of nature, professor at the Citadel here in Charleston, South Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, returning back to the Geno Jones Show, it is my honor to bring to you this brother here, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, with the receipts and the heat and fire to match, Professor Damon Fordham. Professor Fordham, good evening. Thank you for coming back on the show.
You're very welcome. Glad to be back.
So I'm going to shut up. I want you to explain to us in layman's terms, because there's been so much talk about the College Board. They created this African American advanced placement course for high school students, which is like college level courses, but you got like the governor in Florida that just banned anyone from teaching it, saying that it didn't have any educational value, which as far as I'm concerned, this is not you talking, this is me talking, straight racist, so you can at me because I got the receipts to prove it. But could you explain who and what the College Board is, and explain a little more about this advanced placement course for high school students, and just give me your opinion on this whole controversy.
The essence of it is that the African American AP course in question has a few things regarding basically left of center type teachings, i.e. things such as queer theory, stuff about Black Lives Matter and feminist writers, that sort of thing. Now, so they're saying that primarily that this is a means to quote unquote brainwash the young people into having leftist political views. And so he's using that as an excuse not to have them teach this sort of thing altogether, throwing out the baby with the bathwater. But the bottom line of a lot of that is this. You see, over the years, I've taught such courses and things and such subject matter as communism, jihadism, Marxism, Black nationalism, white nationalism, among other things. And it was done with the understanding that I was not teaching the young students, okay, this is the right way to think. The thing is that these things are reality in our society, yes, and they are people with this point of view. So it is necessary to teach the fact that these things exist and that there are people who think this way. Now, that's the reasonable way of looking at it. But now, see, what Governor DeSantis is doing along these lines is really nothing new. Because as far back as 1917, the Daughters of the Confederacy in Georgia under Mildred Rutherford, and here in South Carolina under Mary Sims Oliphant, they banned any teaching that suggested that the Confederacy had anything to do with keeping slavery, as well as certain things such as slave rebellions and that sort of thing. A lot of that primarily was designed so that the African American could serve as a permanent class of cheap labor for South Carolina. Because if you teach a people that they are nothing, well, guess what they're going to think? Unless you are one of these rare individuals who's a bookworm who loves to go into libraries and read for themselves. Because I always tell people in a minute that I learned far more in the library and from old people than I did in the classroom when I was a boy. And that's why I'm teaching the things I'm teaching right now.
So has this affected you and your teaching in any way, the controversy behind it? Where's South Carolina? I'm just guessing. I can't imagine that we would be too far behind in terms of this mentality and ideology, that this whole critical race theory, which is they've kind of like, this whole phrase has been kidnapped. Because first of all, you know better than I do, it was never taught in high schools and elementary school. It was basically taught in like grad school and law school.
Correct.
Somehow I heard a politician saying critical race theory is just racist theory teaching young white kids to hate their white skin, which is foolish, but a foolish person made that statement. But has the controversy with now, because you were in college, so you wouldn't necessarily deal with the AP African American curriculum, but has this whole the controversy around all of this and CRT, has it affected you where you teach, and how have you navigated that?
Personally, no, because I have the support of my department. Now, this is problematic in that Berkeley County, as we speak, is going through some issues with this sort of thing. And this is problematic on a number of levels because you see, there are just simply not that many Black teachers who specify in this type of thing to make up for if they ban this type of material out of the schools. Because the ideal situation would be if a lot of these people who know this legitimate history can go to start up, say, community centers type schools, or go into the churches or wherever we meet and teach it like this. But there's just simply not that many of us to go around. And the average Jane and the average Joe and the average parent has difficulty sifting between good information and false information on the internet. Because after all, many people think that Google is research when it really isn't even half of the research. And a lot of people just simply don't know how to separate the truth from the trash. And the ideal situation, however, that a parent could do in a case like this is to take the child to the library and ask the librarian for age-appropriate books on Black history or any of this other type of history that they might find interesting. And you can go to your bookstores and do the same thing with the bookstore, clerk of the bookstore. Say, what are some age-appropriate books about this history that I could use with my children, and take it from there. So as Bob Marley himself said, who you just mentioned earlier, when one door is closed, another is open.
I love it. And I was just going to, about a couple of weeks ago, I recommended that in the midst of all this book banning, this, especially our culture, we as Black people in America, let's start creating our own libraries at home. And in that same vein, because you talked about that, for all the parents that's viewing, or maybe, high school students or college students that could be watching, if they wanted to start a library, I guess if you had to pick, let's say 5 books to start off the library, the 5, like gotta read these first 5 books will really set you on the right path in terms of knowing the truth about not just African American history, because African American history is American history, because you wouldn't have American history without African Americans. So is there like a list of maybe 5 books you would start off any library with? Library?
Mine.
Well, of course yours, but we need 4 more. So yes, throw yours in there. That's why I said 5. So and
all right,
let everybody
certainly.
Tell, for those who may not know, give them the title of your book and where they can purchase
it. Yes, there's the 1895 segregation fight in South Carolina, True Stories of Black South Carolina, as well as Voices of Black South Carolina. Those 3 will give you a lot of things about South Carolina history that you won't find in a lot of mainstream texts, because you see, I don't just tell the same stories that other people tell. I go down into archives and dig up things that the average Jane, the average Joe doesn't know, and use it as a means of not only education, but well as empowerment. Now, for other books. Now, of course, most people think of Martin Luther King as simply the nice guy who made one speech. To get the real teachings of Martin Luther King, I would recommend his books such as Where Do We Go From Here and Why We Can't Wait. Those are 2 greatly important books that tell you of the real teachings of Martin Luther King. And Where Do We Go From Here, incidentally, was written right before he was assassinated. And it was his plan on what we should do as a people after we win the voting rights and the battle against the segregation laws. In other words, what we need now, okay? Now, another good set would be not only Malcolm X's autobiography, but collections of his speeches, okay? Such as Malcolm X Speaks and Malcolm X The Last Speeches. Those give you a brilliant analysis on the kind of things as a people that we need to do and so forth. And a lot of it is relevant then as it is now. For example, he talked about politics. Because if you notice today, what you have with Black politics is that the leaders are primarily paid to tell the people, vote for the Democratic Party or vote for the Republican Party, right? And what winds up happening is that one side ignores us and the other side takes us for granted, and that gets us nowhere. Malcolm X said in his book, By Any Means Necessary, in a speech he did on June 28, 1964, that what we have to do is hold out our vote and meet with these party leaders and politicians and make an ironclad deal that, listen, either you abide by our demands and we vote for you, but if you don't abide by our demands, guess what? Next election, we're going to tell our people, you're out of here. That's wise, because that forces both parties to deal with you, and you thus have a healthy relationship where you can actually use politicians to get things accomplished. In other words, the politician, you're not supposed to work for the politician. The politician is to work for you.
So let me jump in here, because at that point, I remember, I've read, a little enough about Malcolm, and I remember that, and I remember that theory. But let's fast forward to 2023, and let's be honest about it, because that's what we do here, Professor Fordham. So you got one party that, some accuse of ignoring us, but you got one party that wants to basically oppress you and take you back, literally, if they could, to slavery. So you got one party that is banning your books and this basically allowing police brutality to go on. I mean, you got one party that tried to overthrow the government. So when you've got one group that's so extreme, how do you navigate that? Because let's talk about the last election. And it was a choice between, it wasn't even a choice between Democrat or Republican. It really came down to a choice of saving a democracy or not. Because you have folks that want to trash the Constitution. They've said it publicly, who want to ban all books and make it legal to discriminate and everything else. How do you navigate that? Because if too many of us would have held our vote out, we probably wouldn't have a democracy right now.
Very simple. Because you see, following that bad advice that I described earlier is one of the factors that led to that situation in the first place. Because you see, if you did it through Malcolm's method, what he was saying was make the parties compete for your vote, you see. So therefore, if the parties are competing for your vote, that means that there would be less room for those idiots on the other side to where, okay, we don't have to worry about them. We know that they're not going to vote for us. So let's go for the hardcore, ignorant, and racist vote, you see. Now, if you kind of divvy that up a bit, you lead to a situation where they realize, you know what? We can't afford to listen to these nuts anymore. We got to kind of do better than that. So of course, right now, it's a situation where we're going to have to wait a couple of years before we can do that, as certain people eventually leave this earth and so on and so forth. Seriously. But this should be our game plan on what to do next, you see.
All right. Well, as a matter of fact, because I know we're running out of time. So I tell you what, when you come back, I want you to come back, if you're available, come back in a week or two. Let's pick up there and pick up where we wanted to pick up, because I know we wanted to talk about a lot of the myths about the continent of Africa and African nations, because there's still
yes.
So we're definitely going to do that. But the story about the whole controversy with the AP courses and Governor Too Short in Florida was just so blatant for him to look into a camera and to say that the AP courses in African American culture and history had no educational value. I got to be honest, Professor Fordham, I was cussing his ass out. When I heard that, I'm cussing at the TV. Have you lost your damn mind? How is it that African American history and culture has no educational value, but German, now he's got Italian ancestry, so German, Italian, Irish, Spanish, Japanese, and European history and culture, that's got educational value in America, but African American history and culture doesn't have any kind of educational value. That's just BS. I just got to call it the way it is, straight bullshit.
I understand that, and I agree with you. But if you notice, he did not say, the reason that he did not say that about those other groups is because guess what? Both parties are competing for the votes of those people. So they know that they can't afford to do that. You see, that's, excuse me, that's where we have to get wise on this sort of thing. You see, that's how you vote smart, to make people compete for your vote so that they're going to try to basically not get on your bad side because they know they wouldn't be able to afford to do that.
See, well, his theory is, to hell with you Negroes. I ain't trying to compete for nothing. I'm trying to suppress your vote. I'm passing laws that'll let you vote just long enough that I can pass another law and lock you up and say that you voted illegally when it was my state and my administration that gave you voter registration cards and told you, former ex-felons, that you were able to vote. And so
okay, listen.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll let you finish up.
Right. See, that's the mistake we made in Reconstruction that led them to take away our vote in the first place by putting all our eggs in one basket, which allowed the Democrats of that era to pass repressive laws and so on and so forth, because we weren't playing it smart in those days. And it allowed that condition to where somebody of a party could get up and say that. Now, as I just told you just now, with the Germans and the other groups like that, they wouldn't dare do that with other groups, because why? These folks understand that you have to play the game smart. You know, you have to play, you can't play checkers while other people are playing chess.
Right.
Now, to get back to something you asked me about earlier, to finish as you asked me about what other books that young people could use. All right, I would also recommend Miseducation of the Negro by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Yes. Carter G. Woodson was the man who founded African American History Month. And let me just say this about that while we have some time here, is that because African American history has not been taught as it should, that made our people vulnerable to the worst kind of mythology about themselves. Many people really believe that Black history was given to us, quote unquote, because it was the shortest and coldest month. That's nonsense. The plain truth of the matter is that Dr. Carter G. Woodson picked Negro History Week in 1926 to educate the people, because that was the birth week of Abraham Lincoln and of Frederick Douglass, and he wanted to honor that. Okay, so they had Negro History Week in 1926, and 26 years after he died in 1950, it expanded into Black History Month. That's how we got it. But because the people are surrounded by so much negativity, which ties into what you said earlier regarding why can't people just be happy for Lizzo and Beyonce? The answer is simple. Misery loves company. And if all you know and you see around you is misery, you are going to basically look for things to be problematic even when they are not problematic, which is a sure sign of a defeated spirit. And that's why this type of history is necessary to reverse that defeated spirit in a lot of our people.
All right, you got your book list, everybody. You heard what Professor Fordham said. So
I also have to say this for the ladies. Ida B. Wells. There's a current book that's a compilation of the writings of the great Ida B. Wells, who you know as a Chicagoan,
yes,
as the lady who has a lot of stuff named her. That was the lady who fought hard against lynching and for African Americans' right to vote. And around 1916, she actually had a state politician in Illinois removed from office because he refused to stop a lynching, because she organized the people. These are the type of things that our young people need to read and learn about to empower themselves to move forward, you see? So that's why this stuff is important.
What's her book title?
Let's see, the name escapes me right now. It's a compilation of her writings that just came out.
Great.
If you look up Ida B. Wells, you'll be able to find what I'm talking about. It's on the bookshelves. If you go to your major bookstores, you'll see it, okay?
Thank you for mentioning her. Yes, I growing up in Chicago, I'm very familiar with Ida B. Wells. As a matter of fact, all right, Professor Fordham, always thank you for bringing the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, the heat, the facts, and the receipts. Let everybody know where they can follow you on social media and where they can purchase your books.
Yes, you can follow me on my name, Damon L. Fordham, on Facebook. which is also on Twitter, and my YouTube channel, which is also a good source for a lot of you. It's called The American Storyteller, where you're not going to see a lot of YouTube wars and a whole lot of nonsense and everything, as well as my books are available in most of your Barnes & Noble bookstores, local bookstores such as Buxton Books on 160 King Street, downtown Charleston, and your CBS bookstores around the state of South Carolina. And you could order them online anywhere in the United States. Professor. And I go around the country to speak, so if you want me to speak, go through those sources. I'll be happy to come.
Professor Damon Fordham. Thank you, my brother. We'll see you in a week or two when we can get you, when you got some more time to get you back on. Thank you.
Okay.
I told you, the brother brings the heat, doesn't he? I told you, the heat, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. As always, God bless each and every one of you. You, and especially you. And God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Show, or the Geno Jones Show. I come to you live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. in Chicago, 3:30 p.m. out in Los Angeles. Subscribe to the Geno Jones Show YouTube channel. Subscribe, share, like, and binge watch all my back episodes. The next live edition of the Geno Jones Show is going to be Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Shout out to Mr. Markel Bailey, the official barber and hairstylist for the Geno Jones Show. You can check him out on Instagram, Kel Be Cutting Up, KELBECUTTINUP, because Kel be cutting up. Allie Jones is the drip director, as I like to say. She is the official wardrobe consultant and stylist for the Geno Jones Show. You can check Allie Jones out. Fashion designer, fashion design major, Columbia College Chicago, on the dean's list. Congratulations to Allie Jones, Columbia College Chicago, also my alma mater. You can check her out on Instagram, LX.NCL_ that dash below. LX.NCL_. And shout out to Bruce Gage, also wardrobe consultant and stylist for the Geno Jones Show. He is on Instagram, Miglio di Mario Uomo, the Mario Uomo and Flyball collection. Check out his gear, check out his fit and collection on Instagram. It's Miglio di Mario Uomo, MIGLIODIMARIOUOMO. So I'll see you live Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. In case you missed it, go back and binge watch. Last week was fire. If you missed some of this episode, it was fire. So go back and binge watch all my back episodes. And until Tuesday, live 6:30 p.m. right here on the Geno Jones Show YouTube channel. As always, be blessed. Pray for peace. Thanks for watching. And once again, thanks to my guest today, Professor Damon Fordham at the Citadel right here in Charleston, South Carolina. See you live Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of The Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. It's time for a little comedy.